It is a warm August night in Paris. I'm standing in the tunnel under the Stade de France. I can hear a roar erupt outside. 80,000 people in a stadium, going crazy, eagerly awaiting the final event of the Paris Olympic Games, the women's 4x400 meter relay final. I'm standing with my hands on my hips, swaying side to side in an effort to distract myself from the nerves and excitement building within me. To my right stand Charlene Maudsley, Phil Healy, and Rashida Adeleke, all with the same stance. I've never felt such pride in my life as I look over to the girls. I feel like we're going into battle. In lane 4, Ireland, we emerge from the tunnel, greeted by a sea of energy in the stadium. I take a moment to myself, allowing myself to look up and take it in. I spot Irish flags sprinkled around the stadium. Suddenly, I'm standing behind my blocks. I hear nothing, only the beat of my heart and the starter shouting, "On your marks." This is it, an Olympic dream being made into reality with the ring of a gunshot. So, from that story, you're probably guessing that I was a childhood prodigy, winning races 50 meters ahead of everybody else, coming home draped with medals. My journey with athletics growing up was actually filled with a lot of disappointment and last place finishes, but always a burning desire inside me to get better. I grew up in the Wexford countryside, and like so many kids my age, I was thrown into every sport under the sun. I did Gaelic football, camogie, tennis, horse riding, everything under the sun. Between myself and my siblings, my parents were basically our taxi drivers, shuttling us to and from the local GA pitch and community hall. At age 8, I was diagnosed with asthma. For anyone unaware, asthma is a chronic, long-term respiratory condition characterized by inflamed and narrow airways, making it difficult to breathe. So naturally, I dedicated my life to basically competitive breathing, what any sane person would do. You have to learn how to walk before you run. I had to learn how to breathe. My friend in school, her dad was the local athletics coach, and he suggested that I come along to athletics training in an effort to familiarize myself with being out of breath and learn how to manage my breathing. At that stage, I had experienced quite a few asthma attacks, which honestly, as an adult, to experience an asthma attack right now would be terrifying, never mind as a 6, 7, 8-year-old child when you have no idea what's happening. And so I did. I went to training, and at the age of 21, I finally earned my first Irish vest. Now, by all means, I was a late bloomer in the sport. Throughout my teenage years, I watched all of my competitors and friends earn their Irish vest and qualify for these underage championships in exotic countries I'd never heard of before, like Azerbaijan and all these other crazy places. It hurt. It was disappointing, especially when, it's honestly still at this day, receiving your Irish kit is a huge deal. Kit day, as we call it, the physical act of finally receiving your singlet. It literally symbolizes everything you've worked for, all the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into this. So then I would show up at these competitions and see my competitors donning their Irish singlets and their Irish backpacks. For some reason, the backpacks really, really stung. But I used that and I kept going training. I kept showing up. And suddenly, instead of finishing last in a race, I was finishing second last, then third last. Then I was making it into a semi-final, and then finally into a final. See, I didn't fall in love with winning. I fell in love with the process of getting better. And that, I think, is a great recipe for just life in general, no matter what field you're in. When preparing for this talk, I was wondering, why didn't I quit when I wasn't selected for the teams? I mean, I was terrible at all the other sports, camogie, football, tennis, and I quit those. Although given my surname, I do argue I maybe could have been a good tennis player, Becker potentially. No relation, I always get asked that. I remember in Gaelic football, I would get given the ball and I would take my 3 steps really quickly because I was fast. I'd move past my opponent and then I would come to soloing the ball and I would completely lose any ground I made up. I had no skill. And so I quit because I didn't feel like I was any good at it. So why did I keep going with athletics? I think a big part of that has to do with my parents' reaction to it. Whether I won or lost, it was the same. If I won, congratulations, you won. If I lost, well done, you tried. And that honestly made the biggest difference to me. One moment that sticks out for me, because when I was reflecting on this, there actually wasn't that many moments when I felt really deflated by my athletics journey growing up. But one moment that does stick out, I was 16, I was at the Leinster Championships, and it was just another race that I had failed to make it out of the heats and progress. And I remember thinking, why am I doing this? I'm no good at this. But my mom responded, as she always did, and we got in the car, stopped off at McDonald's for a little treat after the race, listened to the radio, and I showed up at training again on Monday, remembering that I was after falling in love with the process and how much I just loved the track. This slide here is a really good symbolism of, that's me on the right-hand side. It's not, I didn't crop out the image. That was literally me. I was just always in the background, always just thereabouts, never front and center. As I said, I was not a prodigy at all, a little bit forgotten about, but always showing up. Another reason why I think I stuck with athletics is because running is simply my thing. Or if we want to get philosophical about it, in Aristotle's words, running is my eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is living in alignment with your truest self and your purpose. I feel most me when I'm running. I feel at home. The track feels like my home. The track has seen my highest highs and my lowest lows. Like, it's just amazing everything that I've seen. I was not focused on winning when I was a kid. I was just a child with asthma, I was just focused on the present and just running. That's all I was concerned about. But unbeknownst to me, I was showing up and getting better and falling in love with the process. I would show up to the track and think, I ran this lap in 62 seconds last week. I'm going to do it in 60 seconds this week. I think sometimes when we make decisions based solely on the future outcome, we can find it hard to find the motivation and strength to continue when things don't go as we plan. This talk is called Unfinished Future, and I think my youth and my journey to becoming an Olympian was unfinished. And strangely, I think my success comes from the unwritten part. I wasn't told when I was 8 years old, oh, you're amazing, you're going to go to the Olympics. Instead, I just kept showing up. I was familiarizing myself with failure and unsure where this was going to take me. I'm not saying don't dream big, absolutely do, but I think you shouldn't turn away from the things that scare you and the things you want to do because you're scared of not being the best at them. So, the age-old question of what now? Athletics is full of trusting the process. A new training session that I haven't done before, a race not going to plan. I have to trust in my work and my coach's work that everything I've worked on, it's going to come, it's going to flourish, it's just taking its time. And I have used this approach in so many decisions in my life. I've realized all the way back to when I was starting out and just enjoying the process of getting better and being better than the Sophie I was the previous day. After the Paris Olympics, I was in the very privileged position of being able to quit my job. For so long, I wore two hats. The elite athlete Sophie and also the Sophie who was trying to navigate the pharmaceutical industry. Finally, I decided I was going to embrace the title of athlete and fully invest in my career as being a professional athlete. But honestly, in doing this, I hadn't really thought much about the future. I didn't really know financially how this was going to happen, where this path was going to take me, but I just had this burning desire, this burning feeling inside me that it was going to be okay. And once again, I just had to trust the process and follow the path ahead for me. Being a professional athlete does not come without its challenges, as I'm sure you can imagine, the most obvious being injury. I mean, what else do you expect when you're pushing your body like 100% every single day, searching for those tiny 1%, those thousandths of a second that can make such a big difference? And unfortunately, I got first-hand experience of this in October 2024. Actually, funnily enough, well, not funny at all, the same week that I decided to quit my job and fully embrace the title of professional athlete, I found out that I had a stress fracture in a bone in my foot and I would not be able to run for 5 months. Talk about an identity crisis. Being told, I was like, okay, I'm going to be an athlete, and now I can't run for 5 months. But again, that path was not something I envisioned for myself, but I approached it, I took it on, I had no other choice, and we got there. Secondly, I think a challenge that athletes face that probably is kind of brushed to the side a lot is the financial pressure you experience as an athlete. To put it quite simply, if I don't run fast, I don't get paid, and the pressure to perform is constantly at the back of my mind. If I'm going to be honest, even this talk here today, I had to think about how this was going to impact my session tomorrow morning, plan my meals. It's just constantly at the back of your head. And I'm not going to lie, there are days that are tough at the track and things don't go to plan, and I am questioning this, trusting of the process and this path that is ahead for me. And I think, wouldn't my life be so much easier if I had a normal job with a steady salary and a pension at the end of it, and I know exactly what path I'm going to take when the day finally comes that I hang up my spikes and retire. But these are just fleeting thoughts. I go back to the track, I run a lap, and I remember why I fell in love with it all over again. I remember that the track is my home, and I love the unknown. I love not knowing what's around the corner. And I still don't really know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm trying to maximize this life that I have been gifted, and I want to live every day of it as much as I can. And in doing so, I'm trying to channel 8-year-old Sophie and be okay with not knowing what's around the corner, but taking it on anyway and being excited for it. One thing I do know for sure is that my future on the track is most definitely unfinished. This year in August, we have the European Championships. Next year, we have the World Championships. And the following year is the Olympics in LA, where I firmly have my sights set on becoming a 3-time Olympian. So, what does that mean for you? You should not stop yourself from pursuing what you want for fear of not being the best at it, or for fear of not knowing what's around the corner, or how good you could be, because you honestly have no idea until you try. And I just think it would be so sad for you not to give it your all and not to be brave and try something like your 8-year-old self would have all those years ago. In the famous words of Natasha Bedingfield, the rest is still unwritten. Thank you.